Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. During the 2008 presidential campaign, Barack Obama promised to make electricity prices skyrocket.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
And at the bottom of this Obama-Biden webpage it said, implement an economy-wide cap and trade program. I'm going to get back to this webpage in a minute, but first I'm going to point out that the White House press secretary this week said that Joe Biden was in charge of that effort.
Getting people back to work will be his top priority.
On the Keystone XL, the decision yesterday from the president, what would you say to those who have lost their job or will lose their job as a result of that decision? What would the message from the president and the White House be?
The message of the president and the White House would be that he is committed. His record will shows the American people that he is committed to clean energy jobs, to jobs that are not only good, high-paying jobs, union jobs, but ones that are also good for our environment. He thinks it's possible to do both. He led an effort when he was the vice president to put millions of people to work with both of those priorities in mind, and he will continue to do that as president.
As I pointed out in my previous video, Biden promised 5 million green jobs and delivered 2,642. The cost worked out to something like $10 million per job. It's pretty cynical of the White House press secretary to still be pushing that same lie 12 years later.
He led an effort when he was the vice president to put millions of people to work.
But you know she can get away with it because no one in the press ever does any actual fact-checking. Let's look a little closer now at some of the things that were on that 2008 Obama-Biden webpage. Energy independence will require far more than the same Washington gimmicks and continued dependence on costly and finite resources. And they also said that they're going to have 1 million plug-in hybrid cars that can get up to 150 miles per gallon on the road by 2015. Well, we're now 6 years past 2015, and we don't have any hybrid cars getting anywhere close to 150 miles per gallon. According to the EPA, the most efficient hybrid car is the Hyundai Ioniq Blue, which gets 59 miles per gallon, less than half of what Biden and Obama promised. I've already addressed their cap and trade program at the bottom of this page, which Obama promised would make electricity prices skyrocket. Now let's talk about Biden and Obama's promise for energy independence. In 2006, President George Bush said that he wanted America to be energy independent, but big oil companies said that that simply wasn't possible. But despite the pessimism of big oil, under President Trump, the United States became a net petroleum exporter for the first time in September of 2019. This was due to a large fracking boom which made it possible to extract oil from land where it previously was not economical to do so. Fracking was the key to achieving energy independence in the United States, and during the campaign, Kamala Harris said, "Joe Biden will not ban fracking, that is a fact." And then on his first day in office, Joe Biden effectively banned fracking. He banned new permits for drilling, and if you can't drill, you certainly can't frack. It was obvious to anyone paying attention that Joe Biden was going to ban fracking, despite all the lies from the press and lies from fact-checkers.
Practice.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting.
But I want you to look in my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate.
It's pretty obvious what happened. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lied to get elected. And since the election in November, gasoline prices have skyrocketed. This is a direct result of Biden and Harris promising to shut down fracking. This will put lots of money into the pockets of Middle East dictators and force oil companies to purchase Middle East oil instead of lower-cost oil from American producers. This will also inevitably lead us back into the Middle East oil wars, which disappeared under President Trump. Now let's look at another aspect of energy independence. This chart shows electrical generation in green Ontario from a few days ago. More than half of Ontario's electricity was being generated from nuclear power, and only 2% was being generated by wind and solar. Wind and solar simply aren't reliable. If the wind's not blowing, we can't afford to shut civilization down. 3 years ago, Britain went for 9 days without any wind power because the wind wasn't blowing. And forecasters predicted low wind output for at least 2 weeks. No serious engineer believes that you can reliably run a country off wind and solar power. So if you're worried about greenhouse gas emissions, the only way to get rid of them for electricity generation is through nuclear power. But when Obama and Biden were in power last time, they effectively shut down the future of the nuclear industry in the United States. Obama and Biden made a unilateral decision to shut down the Yucca Mountain nuclear waste disposal site in Nevada. During the 1980s, I worked for the government and for private industry on nuclear waste disposal safety, including that at Yucca Mountain. Yucca Mountain was by far the safest place for disposing of nuclear waste. There was no valid reason for Obama and Biden to shut it down. So Biden cut off the legs of the nuclear power industry in the United States, and now he's cut off the legs of the oil and gas industry as well. This leaves us with wind and solar, which obviously aren't going to work. Even James Hansen, the world's leading climate alarmist and the NASA scientist who started the global warming scare before Congress in 1988, understands that wind and solar aren't going to do the job. Hansen wrote an editorial in the Wall Street Journal 2 years ago titled, "The Climate Needs Nuclear Power." But Joe Biden also destroyed the future of the nuclear power industry in the United States, so obviously what Biden's goal is has nothing to do with climate. What Biden and Harris are doing is driving up energy prices, which is the most regressive tax on poor people and the middle class. And equally as disturbing is that they are once again increasing our dependence on Middle East oil. President Trump was the first president in decades to not start any new wars, which is why the military-industrial complex was so desperate to get rid of him. When America became energy independent due to fracking, there was no longer any need for Middle East oil wars. And there's another very dirty aspect to this, which is insider trading in Congress. Last month, Nancy Pelosi purchased stock in electric vehicles based on Biden administration plans. This gives her a major conflict of interest and is also quite likely insider trading. What the Biden administration is doing has nothing to do with the climate. This week, John Kerry admitted that U.S. emissions could drop to zero and it wouldn't make any difference to the climate. This is a point which I've been making all along. The United States does not control atmospheric CO2, and it certainly doesn't control the climate. Biden has effectively shut down the oil and gas industry in the United States, and during his previous administration, he effectively shut down the nuclear power industry as well. They admit that nothing they're doing is going to have any impact on the climate. Yet at the same time, they justify all the terrible things they're doing which are going to hurt the American people as being a way to stop climate change. These people cynically lie and contradict themselves on a daily basis. Nothing the Biden administration is doing makes any sense if you insist on believing that they are working for the good of the American people. But if you can drop that illusion, it all starts to make perfect sense. Toto's been tracking the Obama-Biden lie since he started this 13 years ago. You can visit Toto and Kyrie on the web at realclimatescience.com.